Hey guys, this is John. All right, it's very late at night here. It's approaching midnight. I'm looking for a standard game right now, a 15 plus 10 game. I've got a couple seeks out. I set the rating range pretty wide, plus or minus 400 points, but no one is biting, and I think that partly has to do with the time of day. There's just not as many people online looking for longer games, I think. It's a little harder getting 15 plus minute games on the internet, even though that is the minimum time control I think that people should be playing if they really want to improve. It's just most people online are playing for fun. They want to play Blitz and Bullet. So I'm thinking about playing Computer Impossible, which I haven't faced off against for quite a while. Computer Impossible, although it's only rated 2035, is always tough. I don't know really why I'm making this intro video, but I've just been staring at this green dot and I'm going to click it now and play Computer Impossible. So wish me luck, guys. I'm going to explain my thought process as I go, of course. So, Computer Impossible, even though it has a 2035 rating, as someone explained to me, that rating is artificially low. It should be much higher. And I think that rating is partly due to people cheating against it. Yeah, there are people out there who cheat against a computer, believe it or not. Let's just play a simple setup. I'm going to go bishop f4 followed by e3. So, don't ask me why those people have so much time on their hands, but yeah, cheating against an engine. Because Computer Impossible is much better than 2035. I don't know what its exact strength is, but rest assured it's higher than that. So, bishop e4 check. See, that's not a move a human would play because c3 just seems like an obvious move. I'm not going to think about it too much because it hits the bishop with tempo. Most people would say that c3 is helpful to white. In fact, in this structure, white tends to happily play c3 because it helps you make a nice home for the bishop on d3 in particular. It can't be harassed by like a knight coming to b4. Okay, knight d5. I'm just going to tuck the bishop away on h2. It's almost impossible to avoid time pressure against this thing because as you see, it moves instantly. But I'll do my best. So bishop d3 looking for a future e4 seems very natural. I don't think there's much sense committing the bishop to any other square, so I'm just going to play it. And I wonder if black's actually going to retreat this knight at some point to try to control the e4 square. See, already I'm thinking about playing the position differently against a computer than I would against a human. Against a human, I'd be very tempted to play something like queen c2 and castle queenside and maybe go for g4 and attack, but against a computer, you tend to want to keep the game more calm and strategic because you have no chance against a computer tactically most of the time. So queen c2, although it's my instinctual moves, one of my instinctual moves here, I'm not so crazy about it given my opposition. But then again, how is black going to attack me so quickly on the queen side? I mean, c5, knight c6, rook c8, those moves are coming fairly fast. Yeah, I mean, my counterplay would hinge on that g4 move. So getting that in. Queen c2, let's say c5, castles, knight c6, g4. That opens the diagonal. Maybe black can even just reply with g6. Now, I'm going to wimp out a little bit in castle kingside. Just wasn't quite convinced by castles, and I didn't want to burn any more time. So knight c6. e4 is such a normal-looking break, but after e4, f takes e4, knight takes, the knight's going to hop into f4. Queen e2 is a standard preparatory move. I think I'm going to play that. Okay, so typical setup right here. Rook c8. It's just a very odd-looking move because the c-pawn is blocked. Usually if you're going to move a rook to that square, it's with the intention of pushing the pawn, but that pawn is not moving anywhere. So I'm thinking about bishop a6. Try to trade that light square bishop, but I like my light square bishop here. I'm thinking about a3, maybe in order to go c4. Could play a4, but I think black will just play a5. Let's go a3. Overprotect this b4 square. Kind of like the option of playing c4 after this. Yeah, and queen e8, that's a Dutch-like move. Get ready to bring the queen to h5 or g6. So c4, knight f6, e4. What's up there? Fe, knight takes. Let's say knight takes, queen takes, threatening mate, queen h5. Could also play c4, knight f6, b4. Just start expanding on the queen side. Kind of like the look of that too. Yeah, let's do this. Just back that knight off. d5 worth considering. I didn't see that a second ago, but d5, e takes f5, e takes d5, bishop takes f5 comes to mind. Because if you get in d5 and sometimes even knight d4, especially if this knight moves, that tends to be favorable. So I'm just looking at d5 takes, bishop takes f5 if there's anything to be concerned about there, because off the top of my head, I like the look of that continuation. My backup move here is b4, b4, c5. Some plan like that, but d5 is more direct. Let's do it. The engine takes. Just looking briefly at takes, but I think they can actually play knight takes, bishop c4, knight a5, bishop a2. That's a bit precarious for black, because I'd be threatening b4. Takes, knight takes, bishop c4. Maybe queen f7. That's something a greedy computer would do. Just overprotect the knight. It looks so scary for a human to put two pieces on the diagonal like that, but a computer might do that. Takes, knight takes, bishop c4, queen f7. I can't hit the queen. I need to ratchet up the pressure on the knight, but queen d3, there's always, again, knight a5 maybe. You know what? That looks real interesting, though. I kind of want to see what happens if that move is played. All right, let's try it. Yeah, and the computer's going to bite. Okay, because I thought this threatening b4 would give black issues, but no. c5. So yeah, the engine doesn't care that this knight is pinned and I can attack it a couple times, like queen d3. What's going to happen on queen d3? c4? Queen d3, c4, just knight takes. Bishop a6 doesn't concern me. I take on d5 with check. If queen d3, queen f7, I mean, knight e5 comes with tempo, but queen e6? Is that really going to happen? There's also e4, by the way. e4 takes, queen takes. Double attack once again, and I'm opening up the attack on the bishop on e7. I don't know that that helps me, though. e4, fe, queen takes, queen f7. Yeah, knight e5, queen e6, nothing doing. I can think about just playing like rook d1, something slower there. All right, so queen d3 and e4, those are my candidate moves in this position. Let's look at queen d3 again for a second. Queen d3, queen f7. Knight e5, queen e6. So queen d3, queen f7, maybe a rook move. Let's say rook fd1. And then if king h8, I can move the knight away. Maybe c4, knight c4. Okay, I'm going to do this move. Got about 5 minutes left. There is an increment here. 10-second increment. So queen f7. I think I want to hold knight e5 in reserve. I don't believe I want to play that yet. Yeah, so let's go here. So I'm down a pawn, but I like the pressure I have on this diagonal. I'm banking a lot on this bishop just being strong, pinning this knight. Bishop f6. Okay, hitting b2. I could play queen takes f5, but Bishop takes b2 will almost certainly be the reply. What about knight c4? I mean, knight c4... I think black has to play bishop a6 there. Queen takes d5. We get mass trades. Black's going to win the piece back in that line, unfortunately. Maybe just rook b1 in this position. Rook b1, possibly prepping b4. Yeah, I like the look of this. It's solid. It removes the rook from this diagonal. Also, queen takes f5 could be a threat. So queen e6, kind of a creeping move. This is where it gets tough, just because of the time. b4. How's black responding to b4 without losing material? b4, if takes, takes. The knight can't go to c6. I have bishop takes d5, so I think rook c3 is the consistent move, but yeah, actually maybe rook c3 is all right. Rook c3, queen b5, bishop c6, something like that. So b4, take, take, rook c3. Just say queen e2, knight c6. And amazingly, I can't exploit that attack on d5. Not that I can see. Knight e4? Could I play knight e4 in that position? Maybe. Okay, if not b4, what else do I do here? So I've already established knight c4 can be met by this bishop a6 reply. How does that work out under the present circumstances? Knight c4, bishop a6, take. Yeah, I think at best I maybe get the material back, but maybe not. b2 is weak in the end. You know, I'm going to go for b4. This is quite a committal move. And just c4 in reply. Just c4. Well, I'm not going to think about this one too much. I think I got to take it. And just whatever the consequences are, we're going to have to live with them. Okay, the engine is sacking the exchange. That makes me happy, but is it going to get it back? Ah, knight c3 at the end. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Go figure, the computer comes up with a good idea, right? Okay. So queen c7. If I trade the queens, black will remain up a pawn. Or I'm sorry, actually material could be equal, because I did win a pawn back in that transaction, even though black is now going to win the exchange back. So that's fine. So queen e6 would be kind of the consistent move, but I wonder if I can keep queens on board. Kind of like queen c7. Queen c7 probably bishop takes f3 will be the answer. I'm gonna keep the queens on. Bishop d5. Something about keeping the queens on board just felt right. Knight g5. Is knight g5 playable here? Probably just back. Queen e7. Okay, got to pick up the pace a little bit. F1 or H1. H1 looks safer, but I want my king centralized for the endgame. Nah, I'm going to go to F1. So after knight takes c1, rook takes, there's no bishop c4 or anything to worry about. Could take with the queen, but no, I think this is good. Okay. So is the computer just going to try to collect these pawns? Maybe. Looking for knight g5 if bishop takes a3. Okay, bishop c6. That's annoying because now queen c4 could be in the air. That's something I have to take seriously. Knight d4 is sort of a stabilizing move. Though I don't know how much confidence that inspires. Now I think I want my king over here. Change my mind. Okay, queen coming in. Queen invading and causing trouble. Yeah. Under a minute. Queen d3. Oof. So I can't take because of check followed by mate. That's rough. Okay. Run away. I just fear he's going to attack me with his bishops and stuff. Rook a8. Okay. I feel like bishop e5 would be kind of a helpful trade. He might be able to take on b4 if I play that. What about knight d4? Can I try to offload a pawn to get to an opposite color bishop position? Bishop e5, bishop takes a3. There's also knight e5, by the way. Knight e5, queen d2, though. Knight e5, queen d2. I'm going to try this. I have a feeling this could be a mistake, but I'm running very low on time, and I need to simplify the position somehow. So that's what I'm looking to do as much as possible. And I probably should stop talking so much. So it grabs that pawn instead. Bishop f4, queen takes b4. What about rook b1? Rook b1, there's bishop e4 maybe. I'm going to play this. I want to keep this pawn if I can. Yikes. Okay, let's take the file. I think queen d5 is going to be played. So it threatens mate. And also threatens this d4 pawn. Yikes. Now I might be losing a lot of pawns. Queen g3. Okay. Be going down some pawns here, guys. Let's hope that I have some counterplay on the dark squares. Not looking likely, but I'll do my best. I'll try to attack this b pawn. Computer won't let me take it. And at this point, my only chance is some sort of counterplay against black's king, because these pawns are too strong. But as you can see, it's not going to be simple to line up threats. Let's go here just to put pressure on g7. Okay, I think just queen f7 in reply to this. Try to blockade these and look for rook e7. Yeah, that's a good back off move. I hate to trade rooks, but there's not a whole lot else to do, I think. Well, let's see how the computer breaks down this blockade. Could be instructive. Sometimes computers are not that great at evaluating fortresses, so maybe I can claim to have chances of a draw here. Maybe not after that last move of mine. We'll see. Probably queen a8 or check first. Just no counterplay against this, huh? Well, okay. I can bring the bishop back to c3. I sort of let the pawn get to a2, perhaps unnecessarily, but they will have to play queen f8. b4 probably coming. Okay, I feel like my queen is in a great position, but if I play bishop a1, there might be queen f6 at some stage. So I think I should shuffle with the king. So let's start doing that. If queen e1, they can't ever promote because I'll be threatening g7. Let's do this. So down 3 pawns, but I have these pawns blockaded for now. Let's see what the computer's up to. d6. Okay. So if bishop c3, queen f6, that's what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, let's back off here just to control that diagonal. Queen f4. Threaten d6. Probably queen e7 will be the reply. Queen d7. Okay. Position's a little easier now time-wise. Well, not easy, but there's not as much to calculate, I should say. I'm going to go back here. I just always like having this queen g3 idea. So kind of shuffling between these two squares. Okay, let's go here. Don't want to go to the dark square. So if I go to the dark square, queen c5 is possible. Let's go here. Probably d5. Yep, d5. Okay, so I have a perfect blockade in place on the dark squares. If you haven't figured out what color complex I've been talking about. Okay, I don't think I want to play f4, but this queen coming into g3 is a little annoying, is it not? Maybe I should. King G1, Queen G3. Actually, I am going to play F4. I don't know about that decision, because I did like having control of E4 and my queen having access over here. But it might have been time. I don't think the engine knows what to do. It didn't play Queen F6 before. I'm wondering if it's ever going to give that a shot. Because then I'd have to trade into that endgame, which almost it looks losing. But what do I do instead? I don't know. All right, I'm just going to go here. It's still not playing it. All right, well, let's just go back. Let's try this, a little disruption to the blockade. It's just waiting again. Yeah, for some reason it doesn't want to try Queen F6. And I haven't been able to fully calculate what happens in that case, but we'll see if it gives it a shot eventually. All right, I'll keep doing this. It is going to try that. Don't take H4. Just keep doing this. Maybe it'll just never try Queen F6. I'm going to leave that king on H2. I'm not worried about G5 because I always have Queen H8 in that case. So move 94 now. Okay, queen takes G7, queen takes F4. So a new strategy from the computer. Well, I can check, right? Yeah, just keep the blockade. I mean, bishop E5, stuff like that looks kind of tempting occasionally, but it's probably not worth it. Okay, now I'm kind of worried about Queen F6, so I think maybe now I should check on B6. Because if I just wait, Queen F6 could be played and black won't even lose a pawn in that case, even though I still have a blockade. king h5, I wonder, but Okay, back now if queen f6 or queen a7. Okay, we're just gonna wait still. Yeah, the engine just seems totally unwilling to give up any material. We're still a long ways away from the 50 move rule, so just continue waiting. Queen getting aggressive again, or the king getting aggressive, I should say. So king h5, I was playing queen d1. Queen here. Or just shuffle the bishop. Probably just move the bishop again. Give a check. Oh no, king h5. Okay, this is critical now. Queen b8. I think queen b8. Look for queen h8. Oh, whew, okay. I was worried that there was going to be some sort of infiltration with the queen when my queen and bishop weren't coordinated for a second, but we dodged a bullet there. New arrangement. Okay. Don't really know what that does. Let's go queen e5 this time. Attack f5. Give a check. Just come back. Queen f6, there's queen e8. Check again. Go here. Attack h4. Go back here. It's not threatening anything. Bishop reposition. Because my queen wasn't there. Queen wasn't on d4. Well, let's see if I can get it to give up the b3 pawn. Yeah, but I lose f4. This may change some things. I don't know. Undoubtedly, their bishop is in a better spot now. I mean, I still have some semblance of a blockade. Now queen g3 at some moment could be played. What's this? What's going on if I take? Guess we'll find out. This game is just going on and on. I don't know what d4 was about. All right, let's keep this on a protected square. Yeah, just shuffle. This is turning into a long video. I mean, I think I got to leave my king and my queen exactly where they are. I don't want to allow the computer to get in any closer there. I mean, I can give a check, though. Check, maybe force the king to g8. And then just go back. Or just play this, too. Keep the blockade. Try to play a little faster. I know I've been using all my time, but just looking for any sort of tricks, trying to anticipate where those tricks will happen. It seems like queen c6 should be played at some point. Queen c6, try for queen c2. Queen h6. Okay, so finally my queen is released from having to defend g3. So that could be something. Let's just go here for now. Bishop's always defended. I could check and then win b3, but again, I'll lose this f4 pawn. I'm just going to go back. I think black might put the queen on g6 again. More shuffling. 145 moves. Thinking about going here, just threatening mate. That leads to a familiar pattern, queen g6, queen f2. Threaten this pawn too. Protect. It's now well past midnight. I haven't offered a draw yet because I'm pretty confident the computer doesn't take draws. So the pawn being on h4 is a liability for black because the queen, when my queen is on f2 at least, mostly has to stay guarding it. You know, the only exception is if the king roams around somewhere so that when I take on h4, it's not with check. But then the king is, by default, going to be a bit more exposed for black. Okay, switching the diagonal for the bishop. Don't think that affects anything. So let's just keep doing this. So when was the last pawn move or capture? Bishop takes d4, 126. Yeah, so again, we've got a little ways to go. But the good news is black's running out of decent pawn moves to make. Right? Because these pawns are blockaded, so moving one of those is just going to make my task even easier. And moving any of these pawns is not really possible. F and H are blockaded, and G6 is going to weaken the dark squares too much for black. So I wonder what the computer's going to do when it has to play a pawn move on move number, what, 176? What did I say it was? Yeah. We'll probably play A1 or B2. Maybe it'll give up the H-pawn. Could also do that. No, but can't really give up the H-pawn because I might not take the H-pawn. I would just claim the 50 move rule. Okay, bishop maneuvering. Again. It's funny how when you're playing a computer, you just start to believe them after a while. You know, some of these moves against a human, again, like I might recalculate or try to do something fancy maybe, even though I'm almost never better here. But you would double check their tactics. Whoa, bishop takes g2. There we go. All right. Yeah, the computer did it move 49. It doesn't want to draw. It really wants to play this out. Okay, I have to take it with the king, right? Queen takes f4. Doesn't look correct. So is the idea to come down to c2? I mean, take, check. I thought about that briefly in a different line, but I don't think they can force the queen trade is the thing. So yeah, let's take because that's forced. So I had to play king g1 here. Because king h2, queen c2. And, well, I mean, even there, maybe I can just move my king away. But king g1 seems much more sensible. So on queen c2, I can take on h4 with check. Or just move the queen anywhere, really. Ah. Huh. King g1, is there a1 queen? Takes, check. Huh, that's actually an interesting line. Okay, maybe I have to think about that for a second. It's king g1, a1 queen. Takes, check. I don't know. So if I play king h2 instead, it avoids that line. But there's that queen c2 move again. I think either way, my king is probably going to end up on this square. so I'm going to do it. But yeah, queening is interesting right now. Okay, computer's just going to go for check. King h2 probably. I mean, what else? Oh, there's queen g2. As I'm pretty confident I'm not going to lose that ending if the queens get traded. Nah, I think I like this even better. This h4 is always under attack. Now I can just take h4 if I want. Queen takes h4. What's the big deal? I'm threatening queen d8. Also, I can try to attack this. Yeah, let's take it. I think queen d6 will be the reply. But now I can play queen g3 or queen g5. Actually, I should probably play queen f2. Never mind. Keep d2 guarded. Don't lose on time, John. Get a trade. Here, 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 here. There, take. Ooh, I don't know. I'm going to play it safe, I think. I'm just not sure if I can win that endgame. And I think I might be winning this way. Maybe. Okay, let's start by getting the king over a bit further. Can I put black in Zugzwang? Aren't I just going and picking up those pawns? So here, here, take, there, take. That might be a draw. Let's just mark a little time first. Just don't know if I can win this. I gotta go back now. King c3, king here, take here. Pretty much have to take, take. Yeah, that's just an easy draw. h4 doesn't really change anything, does it? h4, king d5, bishop d4. Oh, maybe. Might as well try it. So bishop d4, what's the engine gonna do? Actually, this might be winning. Yeah. I say, yeah, I'm not completely sure, but okay, this is definitely progress. I want a pawn. So the computer would rather risk losing than give up a draw. That much is clear. Okay, let's go back for a second. I can use this same idea, can't I? this bishop d4 motif. King d5, bishop d4 to try to make progress up the board. Yeah. A1 coming, or not. Okay, we're coming in. Progress is being made. Bishop e5 now. I want to get into d5 with the king. Okay, now this is definitely a win. I'm quite confident of that. My bishop always holds a1. I'm just going to go collect these pawns, quite simply. Hey, let's even take this pawn. Why not? 207 moves. Wow. I mean, I don't know why I was so negative about that endgame when I first got into it. Because the pawns were blockaded. Like, a human would never go into that endgame for black. Unless they really, really had to win the game and there was no increment or something. Just extreme time pressure. But apparently the engine, like I said before, would rather lose the game than admit a draw. So it decided to go in for that. This feels good. Just knowing that there's mate. I don't even care if I'm executing the mate in the shortest number of moves. It doesn't matter. It's going to be mate in a couple. Whew. Okay, 219 moves. Quite the battle coming back from 3 pawns down. I was not expecting that to happen. I mean, I thought the computer might give up all its pawns with the bishops on board, but when it played bishop takes g2 and then started going crazy, it really pushed it overboard. And that could be because the computer evaluation is shallow enough where it actually thinks that such a sacrifice is not that bad. You can see it is moving quite fast. So even though this is a strong engine, it's moving immediately. That being said, though, I mean, I'm not going to exhaustively analyze this 219 move game, but we can hit some of the major points. Much of this game was just sitting there and trying to maintain the fortress, so that cuts down some of the analysis. But let's hit some of the major points. And I'm not going to look at the computer analysis either. I'm just going to give you my human thoughts about this. So I was mentioning black playing this bishop b4 check move in the opening. Yeah, just respond with c3. Again, a human wouldn't do this because it's well known that when you check with a bishop that early and your opponent can just block with a pawn, like barring a few cases, there's one variation of the Scotch, for instance, where black can check on, I think, move 4, and it's actually a line. But barring some very rare cases, this is not a good idea because this is a helpful move for white's setup. Once I get the bishop into d3, I like the fact that I played c3. There's no knight b4 to worry about. So the game sharpened up when I decided to play d5. To my eyes, this looks like a very challenging move, but the computer played principally. It took and it tried to hang on to the pawn. If I were facing a carbon-based life form on the black side here, I would really doubt that they would so eagerly go in for this. If black would go in for this in a human versus human game, it would only be after protracted thought, I think, because black wants to make absolute certain that there's no way white can exploit that knight on d5. So queen d3, I was also considering e4 in this position, but queen d3 seemed normal, just attacking the knight. And now I was trying to ratchet up the pressure on d5. Knight e5 is tempting, hitting the queen, but I think black always just plays queen e6. And I might regret the fact that my knight is on e5. I might want to keep that move in reserve. So this happens. I went for b4. And c4 I wasn't expecting at all. I was looking at c takes b4, a takes b4, rook c3. And I thought I would have decent play there. because it seemed to me that eventually black's knight would have to come back to c6, which blocks their bishop from defending the knight on d5, but instead black did this, and then gave up the exchange, but says, I'm going to win the exchange back. And here I have a feeling that the position is equal, but I didn't find the most precise way in the game to prove that. I mean, maybe I should just trade queens and then let black take one of my rooks. I take back. They're going to have the bishops, though. I thought black would be able to squeak out an advantage there. So I tried to keep the queens on the board because I was hitting b7 and d7. But then bishop d5, there's no rush to take one of these rooks because they're going to win it. Yeah, I think some of my decisions right around here are questionable. I really felt under pressure. Black was harassing me with the bishops. My king didn't feel completely safe because black can always play bishop takes f3 and destroy the king's shelter. a3 and b4, it was unclear if black would ever take those pawns. So knight d4 was, I think, as I explained at the time, mainly a practical decision. I was just hoping to get to an opposite color bishop position because those tend to be more stable. Even if I'm down a pawn, or as it turned out in the game, 3 pawns, I can handle those positions with less time on my clock more efficiently. My calculations will be shorter and generally revolve around blockades and such. But yeah, this continuation, black taking on a3, and then one by one knocking out these pawns, combining queen activity, mating threats. And this should be lost for white. The only thing I have going for me is that black's king is a bit more open than mine. I can try to attack g7, but I have a feeling black should be able to navigate that with precise play. And that's why I'm so surprised that the computer didn't find a good way to finish me off, like once we got right around here. I am blockading all these dark squares. And I was kind of berating myself for having let the A pawn and the B pawn get 2 squares forward each to A2 and B3, but now that I think about it, maybe that was just bound to happen because I want my bishop and queen lined up against G7 eventually. So maybe they're just going to migrate to that diagonal anyways, and I'll have to let black's pawns get a little bit forward. Yeah, so that might be inevitable. So we do get to this basic blockade. I just think at some point black probably can play queen f6, and I'd have to trade. Like say black plays queen f6 right here. I'd have to trade because moving the queen away or even taking on b4 is going to allow a1 queen. But I think the materialistic engine didn't want to do it because it saw that it loses a pawn. Queen f6, queen takes f6, g takes f6, bishop takes f6. And yes, I still have a blockade, but black's king will start marching over. King g6, king f7, king e6. It can probably get all the way into c4, b3, and I think break down the blockade eventually. And actually, it's helpful for black that the pawn is on b4, I think, when that happens. Because if the king does want to march in all the way to b3, there's no pawn hindering it. With the pawn on b3, I have more chances for a blockade because it blocks the king from ever getting there. If you were to remove all the kingside pawns, my chances for a draw in an endgame like that where the queens are off the board is even higher if the pawn is on b3. Yeah, in fact, I can't really show this on this board, but if that were the case, that actually might be a draw. So say black has pawns on a2, b3, and I don't know, d5, and I have just a bishop on b2, king on d2. I don't know that black can actually crack that setup. They might be able to with some sort of zugzwang. But with the king on d2, it always stops black's king from ever circling around and pressing up against me on like the e file. So it's just a matter of if black can ever break my bishop from defending b2, but I don't think so. So yeah, I think a human would definitely think twice about playing b3 and fixing those pawns on light squares because they would recognize that long term in the endgame, that makes the winning chances less for black. And I think also a human would look for an opportunity to play queen f6 sooner than the computer did. So in some ways, this was a pretty instructive human versus computer game. When it came to brute force calculations, the computer was just better than me at the beginning of the game, but I think it just didn't grasp what was going on in the endgame, and maybe it's programmed to just not accept a draw when the evaluation is in its favor. Just play as much as possible and try to win. Probably it is. there were some mildly tough decisions. I know I was tanking on the clock and using up almost all my time, but there were some kind of tough decisions. Like even this one, deciding whether to play f4 or not. I went back and forth. I didn't want to allow the queen into g3. It just seems ideally placed there where it defends g7. Now that I look at it, though, I mean, in the game, there were some possibilities for the black queen to come into g3. So I'd probably rather have my pawn on f3 if that happens. The nice thing about f4, though, it does provide a stable outpost on e5. As you were seeing, like, later in the game, I was putting my bishop on e5, was always protected by the pawn. So that was helpful. Yeah, roundabout here, I mean, black can still try that plan of queen e7, queen f6. But somehow I think white's drawing chances are increased. Like, it's less likely that the king is going to get in with this setup. Just everything blocked on the light squares, because if the king tries to maneuver over to the queen side in the endgame, it's quite possible I'll just blockade. But the presence of the king side pawns, that increases the chances that black could win. I would love to just wipe the king side pawns in that pure pawn endgame, as weird as that sounds. Even with 3 versus 2 on the king side. Because of the fortress I was describing. So next, the computer started moving its h-pawn, which has the advantage of giving me something to think about on the g3 square, but the disadvantage is that pawn has to be defended in a lot of cases, namely when my queen ends up on f2. Yeah, and this was the longest shuffling part of the game. We just shuffled forever with this arrangement. Computer needs to play a pawn move eventually. I did let the bishop get to e4. Again, I was kind of kicking myself for that. I thought maybe in retrospect I should try to keep my queen on d4. But it actually may not matter. I mean, the bishop isn't doing anything on c4, and it's actually not doing much more on e4. It's attacking g2, but that's it. So I actually think it doesn't matter much. Yeah, and now d4, it starts giving away the pawns to avoid the 50 move rule. Maneuver. Got to stop queen g3, so never allowing that. And the engine just decides to go crazy with bishop takes g2 coming up. On move, 175? One move away from me being able to claim the 50 move rule, because remember, the last check or capture, I believe it was a capture, or not check, capture or pawn move, I should say. I was on move 126, so I was one move away from being able to claim the 50 move rule draw. Move 176, but the engine says no. We're going to go down fighting. Decisive result no matter what. And even here, I think the position is probably a draw. My king is quite exposed. Yeah, I was looking at some lines. I'll have to check once I end this recording what happens if black plays in this position a1 queen. a1 queen, bishop takes a1, queen c1 check, forking my king and my bishop. If queen f1, then b2, and I have to give up my bishop. I was looking at bishop takes b2, queen takes b2. Then it's a queen and 2 pawns versus queen and 3, all on the same wing. I should have pretty good drawing chances there. Black's king is also open, susceptible to perpetuals, but I'd have to defend for a very long time. So there was that line. So in view of that line, I'm shocked the computer went for this. Queen g6, king g8, let me take h4, queen d6. Okay, I mean, black still has drawing chances here, I think. But yeah, here especially, queen takes d4 is just a terrible decision. I think queen e2 is just a draw, probably. Queen e2, king g3, queen e1. Yeah, I don't think my king can... Well, maybe my king can start working its way over to the queen side. Yeah, actually, maybe. There's some logistical problems there, like... actually, maybe that is possible. Queen e2, king g3, queen e1, king f3. Queen f1, king e3. They can pick up h3, though, with check. Queen e2 is just a much better try. If queen takes d4 is straight up losing, then of course black should give a check on e2 or c2. Because in fact, this just seems to be lost. It was a little tempting to play king h4, king g5. But I had about, I think, 15 seconds at this point. I wasn't sure how king h4, king e6, king g5, king d5 with tempo on the bishop was going to work out, because that involves some exact counting. In fact, let's try to count that quickly. So king h4, king e6, king g5, king d5. Let's say, where should I move the bishop even? I don't know. Let's say bishop e5. King e4, king takes g6, king d3, h4, king c2, h5, b2, bishop takes b2, king takes b2, h6, and black queens a1. And my pawn's 2 squares away from queening. So yeah, probably good I didn't do that. I chose the safe option. Bring the king over, try to deal with these 2 pawns first, and then focus on, once I've neutralized those pawns completely or won them, swing around to the king side. And the other thing is just keeping black's king out. And at first, I thought this was a draw, but because I can put black in zugzwang with this bishop d4 move, that enables my king to eventually start pushing up the board. I wonder if I actually got into a 3-position repetition here, but doesn't matter because I guess the computer's not going to claim it. So I play h4. Yeah, and now if the king moves anywhere but d5, I'm going to play king d4 next move. And inevitably, I'm going to get into e5 and then f6 and win the pawns. Or I'll be able to play king d4, king c4, and win the pawns over here. So the engine does this, but now here, black is in zugzwang. Because if the king moves, the king gets up to c4. And then I'll win b3. Or put the bishop back on b2 and think about king d4, king e5. So the computer gives up the pawn, and that's the beginning of the end. We get the same position. Zugzwang. Black either has to move the king or play a1. My king comes up the board, bishop e5. I'm getting into d5, and now it's definitely over. Yeah, you saw what happened after this. Wow, I'd say that's the most interesting computer game I've ever played. I haven't actually played the computer that much, really any engines, because I think it's best when you're training, trying to get better, to play mostly human opposition. But playing the computer occasionally is a good test of certain skills. Probably one of the best applications of using the computer is playing out positions that are winning to test your technique. But playing a complete game against a computer, I think personally it puts you at too much of like a psychological disadvantage if you're playing the computer at full strength or even at lower levels, because it's just not fun playing against an opponent who you know is almost never going to make a tactical blunder. But this game was very interesting and perhaps even showcase some flaws that computers still have if they're playing under certain time constraints and programming characteristics like never taking draws. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and let me know what you think. If you have any analysis on this, again, I didn't run it through the computer at all, so I'll be curious what the even stronger engines have to say, like a souped up Stockfish 8 or an Alpha Zero. Maybe someday we can get Alpha Zero's take on this. It'll probably laugh at this engine's play. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Bye.